Good evening and welcome to Build Blueprint for Success. I'm Coach Deborah and I'm super excited to have you here with us today. My guest is Ashley Medford. You should be familiar with her. We have been doing a series and this is week 3. Hi, Ashley.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes. How's it going?
Oh, Lord. Well, we're going to push on through. However we can get through the evening.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us today. And for those of you who are followers of Build Your Best Life, you know we have been going through the journey of adoption through the eyes of the African American boys. And we did the first week back in the middle of August. We did week 2 last week, and we're going to finish up this week talking about the final stage of that process, because many people don't understand that it's not just a point of, hey, I want to adopt or whatever, and you get that child and that's the end of the story. It's many moving pieces to it. And Ashley is an expert in that field. So we want to go through and finish up and talk about this. So we appreciate you tuning in. Hello, Dan, Deacon Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. The paperwork may be final, emotional, psychological, and relational needs of the African-American boy continues well beyond that legal process. From identity formation and trust building to questions about belonging, many challenges emerge after the forever home begins. Being adopted myself, I know you try to put that part aside when you get old enough to understand what's going on, but someone's always going to remind you, oh, they adopted you. They went somewhere and they picked you up. They're not going to let you forget it. So there's all types of things that go on. So we want to delve further into this process. And again, as I stated, we're going to go into the, the the latter part of the post adoption process, discussing the long term needs and experiences after that legal adoption is finalized. If you have any questions as we go through this process, please do not hesitate to put your comments in the comment section and we will read them and Ashley will answer those questions for you. So, as we move on, Ashley, what are some of the long term emotional or mental health needs of an African American adoptee?
Well, I would like to start off saying that it truly depends on the age. It depends on the age and where they're actually residing. Is this an open adoption where the biological parents can still come in and out? Is this a foster home? Is there a foster group home? So depending on what that setting looks like in the place, then we have to look at the age. If they're a newborn, if they're, a child, a teenager, or whatnot, all of those settings is what takes um, that plays a major part as far as what the post looks like. So, for example, if it's a newborn, it's just going to really be like someone that had a child. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes because, again, the child has not really obtained their identity. They don't have their voice yet. So, those adoptive parents or that group home will be, the advocate. Pretty much doing everything until that child becomes the age of understanding. But there will still be processes as far as the caseworker saying, maybe different extracurricular activities that are through the actual adoption agency, through the community, and then that parent or that group home still will want to be building a community for that child while they're coming up. So, when that child does come of age, there's this strong net that is already built there for them to have success moving forward. Don't wait till they're of age and then you're trying to scatter around and figure out what to do because the parent, the caregiver, and the child all need that support. Um, if you're looking at a child, let's say 5 to 10 years old, then that situation would again first start off with the caseworker and any programs that they have for that child. Then the community would be next, and then that home individually, what that family dynamic, what they want it to look like, and then what the best interest of that child. It needs to look like. So maybe putting that child in, big brother, big sister, little sister, your programs like that, the Boys and Girls Club, anything to just keep that positive energy going. Making sure that that school district really has a strong teacher and principal staff involved in the classroom. Because again, that child doesn't need any new situations. You can't beat them, right? They're going to be there. The inevitable peer pressuring and bullying is going to be there. No one may really know, in school that the child has been adopted, not unless someone is announcing it. So that may be hearsay, but definitely when that child is out with the parents, it could be, a different gender, family, it could be a different nationality. Questions can raise in the family, people always say things that they shouldn't say, and children do know more than what we think they know.
Right. Okay, this was getting really really good, and I think Ashley's having some technical difficulties, but I'm sure she will be right back on. If you just joined us, we are in week 3 here, talking about this, the whole adoption process, what happens before, during, and then after all the legal paperwork has been completed. There is still another piece to it. Okay.
So that would be if they are a maybe 5 to 10. Now, if we're talking about 10 to 17, again, that depends on the setting of the place of where it's actually taking place, the support for the caregiver, the parent, and the child. Um, but because this child is older and their voice is pretty much all over the place. This is when puberty is coming in, adolescence is coming in. The
Mhm.
first thing that needs to be established is security, trust, protection, just sitting down. And that's going to look different when you sit down with that child. Gender too, female versus male child, it's going to look different. So really sitting down and not rushing anything, but taking the time to just spend that quality time with the child, not rushing anything, not forcing anything, even with family member and friends. It's not a trophy. You haven't gained an award. It's you need to
Right.
take that time out and really pour into that child and ask them the questions. How are you liking it here? What are the things that you like to eat? What are the things you like to do? Do you want to be in the house more? Do you want to go out more? The child may not really respond, at first, and you have to be okay with that. you know Let them take as much time as they need. you know some children regress when they go from home to home, meaning that however their social skills were, emotional were, it could take a step back and maybe they're not doing the normal things they used to do. That happens a lot. The child could start bedwetting, could have nightmares, medical issues can come up from anxiety or um, depression. So you need to be aware of any of those things that take present. Um, that whole team. So as the child is maturing, you're there to be that support team, but also making sure that you, as the caregiver, you have that support team as well, as you're going through this new journey, post adoption.
Okay. And this is a question, and you may get into it later, but excuse me. I would think maybe this is the same answer based on age and maturity. But if the child is of the younger, so let's just say under 3 or younger, and they are adopted, what is there a good age to tell them or let them know about being adopted?
Honestly, I'm going to say from my experience, no. That is the most heartfelt moment in time, and it really needs to be preserved for a time that everyone can receive. So based off of your family, when you feel like the time is right, or either the child comes to you, make that your personal time. That is a personal thing. You'll never be able to get that experience back. Whether the child finds out prematurely or whether you sit down, like just kind of feel it, just kind of read the room, because mine wasn't like that. I was told abruptly, and it shot me straight into adolescence. I immediately lost my identity. I immediately had I was irrational with my emotions, and like, well, who am I, and who are my parents, and you're not my parents, and where did I come from, and how did I get here? But when I found out, I think I was like 7 or 8. I wasn't anywhere at the maturity level that I needed to be to comprehend and perceive the questions I was asking. So even though I was getting some answers, it wasn't anything that I could rationalize. And then I began to get a hole in my heart and, feeling out of place. And, well, is this why this happens? Is that why that happens? And, chastisement can get worse because now the child is rebellion, and they're not really rebellion. They're just trying to find their place. So really set the table, read the room, make sure that all parties are aware, because that child, like I said, regression is real. And if they step back, you have got to be able to handle that
Yeah.
once they find out that information.
Okay, thank you for that. If you just joined us, we are in the post adoption stage of this series that we have been discussing over the past couple months. And it's a very interesting topic, very heartfelt. So thank you for tuning in. Good evening, Derek. All right. So, Ashley, how do the issues of racial identity evolve as a child becomes a teen or maybe even a young adult?
When it comes to racial, I think it depends on the culture. But it depends on the family values and morals, the structure that that family has put in place, and that also depends on if it's like an open adoption, a group home, or like a closed adoption. So all of those depend, because if you're in a group home, you're going to have all type of racial, you know different nationalities. You could have two mothers, two fathers. It could be a number of things. It could be a staff. Versus if it's like a closed adoption, it still could be different racials going on. Or it could be, maybe it's a closed adoption and it's an African American boy, but maybe the parents are Caucasian. So, and again, that depends on age. It depends on setting. And then from there, now whatever that family or group home is involved with, that's when all the questions come. That's when all the insecurities come, because now it's public. And I don't know you, you don't know me, you don't look like me. Is that okay? Is it not okay? And then here comes the world to label and validate. And this child doesn't even know that that's not the truth. That's not what we judge by. But unfortunately, we live in a world that judges by no merit. We just got to have something to say. We don't want change, but we say we want change. And we say we want to help everybody. But then when it's your turn to help, you don't really want to help. So this child is just like, well, what do I do? I know you don't look like me, so how do I respond to these situations? That child may not tell the parents, what they're hearing, and now they're regressing. Because now there's this racial situation on the table. The parents felt like the child was not ready for it. Okay, now your child is just going to deal with it, and they're dealing with something that should be able to be dealt with as a family or as a group home, versus your preference of what you think a person is or is not ready for. So yeah, that definitely depends on the age and the setting of the post adoption.
That's great information. I can imagine that can be very difficult, especially, you know, the younger you are, it's just like, okay, everything's fine. But as you get older, and like you say, people always got to stick their noses in there and have things to say. It's like, okay, is this not right? And then you not only are curious, but now you're feeling a certain type way. How did this happen? Why am I here? Why did they adopt me? So I guess that opens up more questions.
It does. It really does. And then the good old enemy, he comes in and he brings stress, anxiety, depression, all of the above. And then that anxiety is just shot down, and that's why I really love movies like Inside Out, that really talk about emotions with teenagers and adolescents, and how emotions can take control of oneself and they don't even know it. And now that child is in a sunken place because they've been put into a situation that the world said would be in their best interests, but they don't get a voice. They don't get to choose. Someone else is choosing for them because they're a minor. And now all those decisions and choices are based upon their caregiver. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And so that's why these groups are here, and us like advocates are here, for the times when we can still pick up the mantle and it can still be corrected. You can still get the help. You can still turn it around before they're of age. And now you have a grown up that never dealt with trauma, and now it just passes down from one generation to the next.
Yes, and it can, things like that. Not only being of cultural difference, but just not knowing or having questions about the why can make you act a certain way. Um, Like I have this thing about with my name, and people, it's like, okay, what's the big deal? Why do I have to use her middle initial? Why does it always have to be Deborah D. Smith? Okay, and if you don't know my story, then you don't understand why, and you think I'm just being Miss Bougie or something like that. But it has a background to it. Just put the D there, and if you want to know why, ask me, and I'll be glad to tell you. So it's a different situation.
Yes, truly is. Every situation is different.
Yeah. So, how should adoptive families handle questions about birth families or the desire to reconnect?
I think every family should come up with their own plan, just like a birthing plan. Even though that you didn't have this child naturally, it's still your birthing plan. You're birthing something new. So treat it just as such. So sit down with your spouse and think about questions that you have, questions that the child may have, and then just leave an open space to be able to create any questions that come up. And, hey, I don't know these answers. Let me get it back to you. And then it'll be child appropriate too.
Mhm.
So that everybody kind of understands and understand that you're going to come back to this birthing plan, because with adoption, you get to rebirth over and over again as this child continues to age, just like a regular parent would. And so just being able to be open and not having to copycat what other people are doing, but really do your research, bringing your community, bringing your caseworker, really build that village up, not so much sheltering, because that's not going to help the child either. They've already been through a situation. Now if it's a newborn, that obviously is going to be different. But if it is a child that is of age, just really make sure that there is an open space that feels safe, that no matter what the question is, no matter how much you think it's going to hurt, or be perceived a certain way, you can't think for that child. Just don't try to think for them. Don't try to speak for them. Set the table, take the time, and keep the door open.
Yeah, that's good. That's real deep, but that's good. Yes. Um, what kind of ongoing support, mentoring, therapy, um, I don't know, going back to the root, the crust of everything is most effective?
Again, it depends on the setting and it depends on the age. So it's going to change. So what will work as while they're a newborn, you may just be doing, things with the caseworker, things with your community, but that's going to change when they get 3 to 5. It's going to change again when they get 5 to 7, 10 to 12. It's going to continuously change. So that's not always going to look the same. Just like our own self-development, we don't look the same. Our perception is going to change over the years. Just make sure that you have some type of structure in your journal. Obviously, however you want to write it down, AI it, whatever it looks like. But just make sure that you're using the resources. That's the main thing, because there's so many resources out there, but a lot of people don't know where to network, which is why we're doing the podcast. Reach out, ask us what people, what places, what states, is there something international? You get so many people now that have so many stories. If you just reach out and just be, open to hearing other people's stories, and then you take, what you want to take and apply that to your situation and say, okay, well, I read these books, I went to these conferences, um I worked with these advocates. And so, you might have somebody down the street. But just being able to combine all of that, and then also asking the child too, hey, we've done all of these things. Are any of these things actually working for you? Because you don't want to do too much. And now the child is smothered, and you got the child in all these extracurricular activities, you're in all these support groups. but you never actually sit down with a child and talk to the child. Like, it's still about the child at the end of the day, and now you have this child that's like, oh, well, we're always gone and we're always doing these things and I don't like none of it, and now they're rebellion. Well, adolescence is going to be in there too. Like, you
Yeah.
can't get around it, even though it's an adoption. um and so making sure that that is support for the child and support for the parents. It just can't, it can't be one or the other. It has to be both. And so as they grow, they're going to grow together, just like a garden. You take the weeds out. Sometimes you got to leave the weeds in so you don't pull up the good things, that you're building a well rounded. You're not building chaos. You're not going from one negative situation to another, but you're just really keeping positive people around, positive energy around. If you want to talk about, Christianity, learning when to add that in, what that looks like, not forcing anything on anyone. And you'll be able to see, because that relationship will be developed. That's the number one key. And then that child one day can could become of age and be like, wow, my group home, my adoption was awesome. Man, those people, had it not been for them coming in there, helping me out, giving me guidance along the way, I don't know what I would be without them. And then you have those aha stories, of adoptive kids, of adoptive parents that are like, man, I just had an awesome situation, and that's contagious. And then that positivity just keeps going on and on, and that's what we want more success stories of good adoptions.
That's good. Because I guess when it comes down to, oh, did they love me? They couldn't have loved me because they gave me away. But you can turn that around. Well, but they loved you so much is why they gave you away. Yeah, so it makes a difference having those conversations.
Yes, you
Yes.
got to be an open book.
Yes, most definitely. And that's one thing, people don't seem to understand. We're talking about adoption, but that is in the entire upbringing of your children. You have to be open and you have to be transparent and you have to listen as well. Those things are just key. And if you
Mhm.
just joined us, today we are talking about the post situation or the process in the adoption. You have the all the research and everything before you have the actual process and everything that goes into that, which we talked about last week. And then after the adoption, you have a process that the child still has to go through. That's not the end of the story. That's what's going to be with them their entire lives. So it's important that that is handled in the right way. And so that's what Ashley Medford, she's an expert in this realm. And that's why she's here today giving us that information. If anyone out there has questions, please make sure that you put it in the chat as we finish this conversation. But it's been
Mhm.
very eye opening so far. And hello, Agnes. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to see you here. So, how can we help these young men feel proud, feel seen, feel empowered? Yes, I was adopted, but that's not a negative as they build their best lives.
We're talking to them as age progresses, you know, making sure that you have social skill building extracurricular activities in the school, outside of school, at home. Like I said, if you want to bring your religion in there, making sure that it fits your house, you're not trying to force anything else from anybody else, and just really making sure that that child knows that they're confident, that they're loved, that they're heard, that they're seen. And that is going to change over the years. And just keeping your open arms, keeping an open heart, an open mind, as that child changes, especially if there's different nationalities, different genders, same sex, those different things, keeping all those things on the table. Because what one perceives when the adoption starts is not going to be the outcome, at post adoption. There will be a lot of different changes and bumps and turns by the time it is finalized. And just knowing that whatever you thought it was going to look like, being okay for change. And so, as that child continues, that young man continues to grow up, making sure that he is in young men activities, making sure that he's heard, and making sure that you monitor the child really well is too, because there's a lot of peer pressure and bullying going on. We don't want to give the child another situation. And when adolescence does start, because it will, making sure that you're there to talk about those things, but not smothering, giving a child the space that's due, not too much space. um and so that you see how their friends are. Do they have healthy friend relationships? When they start dating, is their dating healthy? Even that's not what we want them to focus on, but it's going to happen. So making
Right.
sure that those talks are there. Just because they're adopted doesn't mean they're not going to do normalized things. um and make sure that there's not an adoption label. Like, that child should not feel like I am different. Like, I was adopted, but that is not, hi, my name is Ashley Medford, I'm adopted. That title doesn't need to be there. It just needs to be, hey, my name is Ashley Medford, and this is who I am. I was adopted at 2 months old, and my parents did the best they could, and they put me in these things, and here are the pieces that I'm picking up with that, because the child, just because they're adopted, they got to do their part too. This is not all about the parents. And if
Mm.
you put them in the right places with the right people, when situations happen, the trauma will not be so tough. So if they came from a negative situation and they're not getting the resources that they need, then trauma and outbreaks are just going to be happening all over the place. But if you're giving them the right foundation, the right pillars of life, the right identity, like extracurricular activities to kind of help out, then that developmental stages, even though trauma's there, even though the questions are there, it's a lot easier to process on everybody's part, not just one. And then, like I said, you have a better success story. That child, now they want a career. Now they're getting their own mortgage, they're getting married one day, they're having children. They may want to adopt when they get older, so you're helping them to set the path for that. So yeah, there's so many different things out there, but just making sure that you put them in a path where they can be able to they grow up.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for all this information that you have provided over the course of these three sessions that you have provided on adoption for the African American male. I know that this is a segment that needs to be shared because I'm sure that there are individuals that don't have this information. They've gone through this process and they get to a place and they get stuck. They don't know what to do. So please make sure that you share. And Ashley, I thank you so much for taking the time to come and share this with us. But if there's anything that you thought of that you want to share along these lines or something else totally different about adoption, please go ahead.
For the opportunity to be able to speak. And, anyone out there, please continue to pass on this message, whether it's today or 10 years from now. We are out here, we're advocating, we're helping you get the resources that you need. Whatever it is, we'll help you find out what it is. Because there's children out there that need our help, whether it's finding them a new home, or helping them while they're in a group home, whatever that looks like. They're out there, they need the help, and the parents, the caregivers, they need the help as well. Well, not to be pushy, but just to help the ones that want the help. And understanding that a lot of boys that have been in the group homes already, they have a lot of hurt. So please don't misunderstand that. Understand that their story is their story. They're not trying to change anyone, but they are hurt, and that's how they're dealing with it. And so it may come off negative, but that's what we're here for. If they want to talk about it, if they want to deal with different organizations or different people to kind of help them deal with those traumas and stressors, pass along our information, or however we need to communicate, we'll work it out, but we're here. So that's what the books are for. That's what the podcasts are for. We're going to keep showing up every time, even if it's just one boy that we help out, one parent that we help out. So yeah, that's what we're here for. And I thank you for the opportunity to be able to continuously speak on it.
Oh, anytime. Thank you. So, of course, you will be back on, because I know that this is something that is helpful to the parents as well as the children. So we want to make sure that we continue to have this information available. So thank you. This Thursday, let's talk about it. It is time for Miss Anastasia to be on with us, and our topic is going to be emotional regulation and stress management for young men. And I know you say, well, y'all always talking about stress, and hey, that's because it's needed. Mental health issues with our young men, our young people, is not going down, it's going up. So the conversations will continue, because we are here to help people. So that's what we're going to be talking about on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 Central Time. As well, this month we're having an initiative of 31. That is 31 books in 31 days. For those of you who do not currently have a copy of Build Your Best Life, that is the book that I wrote that aligns with what I teach on this broadcast. It's about using basic principles to teach young men how to overcome obstacles and build their best lives. So the book has down-to-earth situations, people that they know, like Tyler Perry, Steve Jobs, Shad Khan, who is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, different people, and some of the things that they had to overcome during their lives, and how they can be, how they will show you how things happen, but you can overcome those things. So this month we want to have 31 books sold in 31 days. So if you don't have a copy, it's a good time to get a copy for yourself as well. This is a great gift. Holidays are coming up. We still have people graduating in December. You can buy one and you can gift someone one. So the information, I hope you can see it on the screen. If you would like to get a copy, you can either go on the website, which is www.buildyourbestlife.org, or you can email me at byblwdsmith@gmail.com. We have different ways for you to pay for your book, Cash App, Zelle, or PayPal. So please think about it. And we are here to serve, but we want to make sure that we're getting these books in the hands of young men. And our goal here at Build Your Best Life is, one reason why we're pushing these books is because young men, we talk about teenagers and young adults, a lot of them don't have funds. So when we do things like get these books sold, get donations, then we're able to put those books in young men's hands free of charge. I can go and speak to schools and correctional institutions. So that's what it's all about. It's not about trying to make a book. It's about trying to help. So please think about purchasing a book for yourself or for someone else. So again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Ashley. Remember, building your best life is our business, and that's not a slogan, it's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. And I hope to see you here Thursday, 6:30. And Ashley, I know you'll be back, so see you soon. And she will definitely be back next month. We as our great November is here already. I can't believe it. But we have our Grateful Conference in November, and Ashley's actually uh, the coordinator for that event this year. So she's getting all our speakers, and she's going to be the facilitator. So you will be seeing her again soon. So stay tuned.
Yes.
All right. Good night, everybody.